Okay, so this is my reaction to the body rituals among the Nacirema. Nacirema. Yes, that's how you do it. Hey, so my initial reaction to the article was it sounded like any other academic writing, any other historical paper where the author is going on but in detail about the culture, and he's talking about it very weird. He mainly focuses on body rituals, as the name suggests, and how this Native American culture would just go to all these doctors and have all these horrible procedures done on them that really don't sound like they would work or help, but yet they keep going back. And it was really interesting because the anthropologist opens the article stating how that the anthropologists are so used to cultures having bizarre practices that nothing could surprise them. And this is, as I read the article more, this sounds more of a case to prove that, but we'll get into that a little bit later. It really highlights the culture of the tribe and their weird rituals, and it's written in a way where it is very foreign to us as Americans, to the culture that we are used to. It is nothing like that. But as I read the article more, the witch doctors and the mouth medicine men and the medicine men, they're just referring to doctors, and the body rituals are just going to the bathroom and brushing your teeth. They're spoken of very oddly, like magic paste in your mouth, or it describes how kids hate the dentist, but in the article it talks more about how that kids that aren't indoctrinated yet tend to resist, but that's just before they understand the benefits of it. And it also touches on how when medical practices don't work, when it doesn't go right, how we're still just as eager to go to the doctor and see him, even though it's not proven to work 100% of the time. So yeah, the article, the Nacirema, that is actually American, spelled backwards. It's pretty clever. It's talking about the American culture. Even in the article, it states that this tribe is between Canada and Mexico, so it is literally straight up saying that it's talking about America. I would say that there are some other elements of our culture that, coming from an outside perspective, like for instance maybe a European or an Asian perspective, they might not understand all the elements of our culture. These 3 points that I want to touch on are sports, Greek life, and political correctness. Now, sports, obviously, the rest of the world doesn't. Or they do understand it in some cases, like they have cricket and soccer is very popular for the rest of the world. But our commitment to good old red-blooded American football, I'm not sure how much other cultures really understand the length that a lot of us Americans will take that to. And on top of that, basketball, baseball, hockey. I mean, that's more not as big, but it's mainly basketball, baseball, and football. Those are the big three. They're taken very seriously in America. Lots of people put lots of money on them and are very committed to their teams. It can seem kind of pointless from an outside perspective about why we care this much, but it's just so deeply rooted in our culture. It means a lot to people. People go to schools and have the time of their life and make their best friends ever, and they can cheer for that team for their entire life because it reminds them of when they were there. It's a little bit of who they are. The same thing can be seen with Greek life, with sororities and fraternities. From an outside perspective, those can kind of seem a little cultish. The undying commitment to Greek life, to your sorority or frat, or to your brothers. It can seem a little off on some of the things, especially when you bring hazing into it and the scandals that have happened on that. It can seem a little off. Another thing is political correctness. We take that very seriously in this country. You cannot say the wrong things in front of people or behind closed doors. You just can't do it, and that's taken very seriously, and people will lose their jobs or be outcasted from friend groups or societies because they breached this social contract. And yeah, culture does change throughout time. Take for sports, for instance. Baseball is America's pastime. Look at baseball back when Babe Ruth was playing. He's the most famous player of all time, the idol to tens of thousands of little league players all over the country. Babe Ruth is their idol. Dude hit the longest home run ever recorded. He's an icon. 100 years later, he's still an icon. And that just goes to show how deeply rooted sports are in our culture. But baseball since then has become bigger, better, just all around a bigger show. The athletes are better. Back then, people weren't really training for professional sports. They weren't very athletic. Now, I mean, everyone in the big leagues for any sport is a freak athlete. They had to dedicate their entire life to the sport, to mastering their craft. And it's such high pressure at that level that you really can't make any mistakes. Otherwise, they'll get benched. They'll lose their spot. Baseball's just gotten bigger, more competitive, and a bigger deal. So has Greek life. That's another way that it's impacted our culture. Greek life is a huge part of the college experience now, unfortunately. But Greek life, you can see it even in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, sororities in Greek life, they were just worried about having a good time, just kind of about themselves, maybe some community outreach. Now, especially at bigger schools like the University of Alabama, it's the famous one, a lot of the SEC schools, Greek life is everything at those schools. I mean, sororities have millions of followers, hundreds of thousands of followers and hundreds of thousands of views on their TikToks and on all this stuff. It's becoming very much more enrooted in our culture. And it's kind of cool. We can see that happening right now. So is the political correctness that's becoming more ingrained in our culture. I would also say that this can be for the better or for the worse. Personally, I think that our dedication to sports brings a lot of people together. It lets us unite and find communities and make friends and cheer for our team and find common ground between each other. It can be a really good thing for our culture. So can fraternities and sororities when it's done right. It can be a good thing. You can meet some amazing people and some of the best friends for the rest of your life. On the other hand, I do not think the political correctness is something that is benefiting our country. I mean, obviously, you can't say it's one thing to say something or let something slip. It's another thing to be openly aggressive towards people and hateful towards people, which is absolutely not okay. But they're taking political correctness in this country to a length that is, I would say, dividing the country more than it is uniting the country. Some of these issues are being made, rightly so, because of our history, massive issues. And maybe there's some new issues that need to be talked about, but being aggressive in this hostile political correctness space that we're in now isn't going to solve any of the problems, never solved any of the problems in any other nations, and that is not going to change. The only way for us to change is for us to take the heat off some of or lose the aggression a little bit and just talk things out like people.